It's the Pillowcast with Lane McCullum. If you've got friends, you better call them. This podcast exists for absolutely no reason. Yeah. It's the only thing worse than federal treason.
Hello, all you pillow people. Welcome back to another episode of Pillowcast. We've got a very interesting episode today. We've got Landen back for this time again. If he wants to tap in right now and say what's up.
Hello, pillow people. I'm back, and this is going to be a very fun episode. I'm really excited for this one, so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Very, very exciting. Very interesting episode today. Music focused, very music focused episode today. And actually, the actual concept for this actually came from Landen. So, Landen, if you want to explain what we're doing and what we're talking about here, feel free to. Let's go.
So, you might have read the title. Today, we are making the one and only, this is a 100% real festival. We are making Pillow Fest. So, we laid down some ground rules here. Basically, we're going to be doing 5 artists, and we kind of made it that, like, it fits all within a certain frame. So, we do 5 artists each, which means we have a 10-artist lineup for a one-day festival. And we're going to be going down the lists. We have, we can actually go down them probably there, but I'll just do it now. We're going to be doing the artist and why we picked them and what makes their performance worth it, and could they sell at the festival. And we're going to go down a list of 5 songs. We're going to do 1 opening song, 1 crowd favorite song, 1 personal pick, a surprise song, and a closing song. Now, we had a rule. It has to be an artist or band that is currently living and performing, with the one addition of 1 reunion. You can pick 1 reunion artist for the entire set list. So me and Lane both have a reunion artist that we're going to bring up once we go down the list of our artists. So, Lane, do you want to start off? Who did you pick for... We're going to start from the bottom, basically. So, who did you pick for your small artist?
Yeah, so 5 bands for the entire festival, which this isn't like necessarily like modeled after like a real like actual festival thing. It was kind of just like, here's a select few artists, some of the smaller bands at the bottom, like big artists at the top, kind of similar to like an actual music festival. And my bottom band is actually interesting in a sense because I actually used my wild card for the smallest band on the entire festival. And I think it's for good reason. And if you know anything about emo music, indie bands, whatever the hell, you for sure know who these guys are. And that band's the Brave Little Abacus. They're going to be my wild card reunion band for the festival. So there's some background on them. They were an emo band from New Hampshire. They formed in 2007. They existed for about 5 years, in 2007 to 2012. And in that span, they released 2 studio albums and a few EPs. Their most notable release is their last album, Just Got Back from the Discomfort, We're All Right, which is just one of the most sonically impressive emo albums ever made. It's honestly, you can't even really call it emo. It's kind of got its own thing going on, but their debut album, Mass Dancers, is also fucking fantastic. And they're just a very influential and unique band in terms of just the indie scene, the emo scene. So many bands have taken inspiration from them, and they've honestly only gotten bigger since they broke up. I feel like everybody pretty much knows who the Brave Little Abacus are now. And they're just a fantastic band overall. So in terms of just everything surrounding the festival, why I picked them, I just want to see them back. I just want to see the Brave Little Abacus back. They played their last show in 2012, like a few days after they released their last EP, which was called Okume. But they haven't been a band in like almost 15 years. Their lead singer Adam's in a band now called Me and Capri's, which are also pretty cool. They've dropped some pretty cool songs. And why they would help sell out, I just think it would bring, first of all, it would bring a nice draw to some of the smaller bands on the bill. Get a lot of people in the doors for when they're playing. And also, I just feel like there would be a lot of fans who discovered them in the modern internet age that never really got to listen to their music when they were around. So I think it would be a cool chance to come and see them. It was very similar to now that I'm speaking about it, it actually reminds me very heavily of when Marietta and Mineral played at Best Friends Forever Fest. I think that's what it was called, or Marietta specifically, because Mineral's been around, like, not broken up for a little bit. But Marietta came back, and that was like the first show where they came back and performed as a band. So it kind of reminds me of that, like the bands reuniting at a festival kind of thing. Which I have my issues with bands reuniting at festivals, but if you are to get a band back and it has to be at a festival, like, I'm fine with it. Like, I'm fine with it. And if that's what it would take to get the Brave Little Abacus back together, then absolutely get them there.
And you know what, too, with that, I was gonna say, I do think it's interesting how I had a lot of trouble with my small artist. In my opinion, your small artist, surprisingly enough, I think would sell a solid amount of tickets.
Oh no, absolutely. And they're not even like that small. I could have picked, like, there's a lot of local bands in Pittsburgh that I love that I would have loved to pick. There's some great screamo bands that are
enough.
Yeah, small enough. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
in terms of like monthly listeners, they have like 30K. But like in terms of like their overall popularity, they're a lot more popular than that. I just think when it comes to the other 4 acts that I picked for the festival, they're easily the least popular, and I wanted to put them on anyway. Is it worth going to? Yes, because it's their first show back, so you have to. You have no choice. When it comes to my 5 songs that I picked, in terms of what songs they're gonna play, um, whenever I was putting the songs together, I thought about what exactly would make for a great opener, a good ending, and just some of my personal favorites. So it was kind of structured similarly to how, if I've actually seen the band live, which actually I don't think I've seen any of these bands live, but like live videos and shit that I've seen of them, I kind of structured the set list similarly to that with a few minor tweaks here and there. There's not a lot of Brave Little Abacus shows online, so there's not really a lot to go off of. So I think these are the 5 songs I would want to see them play the most if they came back. It opens with I See It Too, which is the first song on their first album, Mass Dancers, which is one of their best songs. I think would be a great opening. And then it goes into Pile No Pile Pile, which is the opening track from their second album. I just got back from the Discomfort. So back-to-back openers, very high energy. I think this would be a good intro to the show. Middle of the set is a Map of the Stars, again, one of their very notable tracks off of their debut album. And then it goes into an acoustic track from Just Got Back, which is the song Can't Run Away. One of the best songs on the album. I wish they did more acoustic songs like that. Just a gorgeous song, a nice break in the middle. I kind of wanted the set lists to have like an ebb and flow, where there's some high energy tracks and some lower energy tracks to kind of break up the flow of the songs in the set list. And I thought Can't Run Away was a great one. And then the last song that they would do is Please Don't Cry, They Stopped Hours Ago, which is probably their most popular song. I just think it fits to have the band play the most popular song at the end. Not to mention that ending, like, crescendo is fucking incredible, and just like one of the best endings to any emo song ever. And like over the PA, it could have it fade into Boys Theme, which I thought could be pretty cool considering it comes right after it on the album. And yeah, I just thought that was like a nice definitive run of 5 tracks for the band. They only have 2 albums, and the EP tracks aren't nearly as essential as their album stuff. So it was fairly easy to pick 5 songs that I think would be a good fit for the reunion. Yeah, this was actually one of the bands I was very excited to bring in here because I love the Brave Little Abacus. I would pay exorbitant amounts of money to see them if they came back. So in this little fantasy world, they are reuniting, and they are coming back on Philofest. So
Yeah, it's a very solid. I would say it's a lot more solid than what I have as my my small pick. I also do want to preface, I didn't say this before, and I realized how important this was. We do have, along with our rules, we have a like a format. So we're going to be starting off with a small artist, then we're going to go into one mid-tier artist, which is like not too small, not too big. We're going to be doing 2 supporting acts, which are like they can be pretty big. And then the headliner, who's going to be like the big artist for the festival.
yeah.
So, with that being said, Lane, was that everything you had for your small artist?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Brave Little Abacus. You gotta get
Cool.
them back together.
So yeah, like I said earlier, I had a lot of trouble with my smaller artist, and I think me and Lane do have like very interesting picks. I was expecting, just a random Bandcamp artist, or someone in your local scene or something like that, which I had thought of. One thing you're going to notice is that I have a very cohesive list when it comes to my set list, and everything is very formative. Everything is flowing together. So you're going to notice a theme that was not a requirement. We talked about it and we decided we didn't want it to be a requirement. So it could have been all over the place, but it just so happened that mine kind of flows into each other. And I do think the fun part about Pillow Fest is that it might be all over the place, which already right now it's going to be. So my small artist I picked was Cody Mundi.
You and I are company, but the matrimony, it makes a crowd. Como está usted? Como está usted? Como está usted?
It's a bit of a deeper cut, which is why I picked him. He's not nearly as famous as he should be. He was a Puerto Rican artist, and was one of the biggest collaborators with Kid Creole and the Coconuts, and his music was like an early combination of Latin music and disco and funk and even like punk in some ways. And he was a part of the like 70s New York music scene. Now, I do pick this with a bit of a technicality because he is not denounced performing. He has not said he doesn't perform. He just has not performed in a while. So I'm still counting it and I'm not using it as my reunion because I think that's fair. So I picked him because I believe like I said, his influence is severely underrated, and it'll complement my headliner, which we'll get into later on, and I'll talk about that once we get to the headliner. And he's a representation of, like, Latin and New York roots underneath, disco and dance. And the other artists you're going to see in my lineup, he's definitely a big part of that influence. So him and August Darnell of Kid Creole and the Coconuts are representation of, also outward, bold fashion that gave them a very defined look, which will also influence some of the later artists on my set list. Could he sell at the festival? By name, probably not, honestly. Not many people know about him, but that's not really the focus on him. I'm not picking him because he'll sell tickets. He's an act that I would want people to see and appreciate the music and the work that he's put in since the 70s, And in terms of what makes his performance worth attending, I think he would bring that theatrical aspect to his set, and it'll be a very big appreciation of like classic funk and Latin groove and his humorous side and New York inspiration that doesn't really feel like a normal festival performance. I think it's going to be much larger than that, even after 50 years. So for the opening track, I picked Como está usted, which literally means how are you in Spanish, making it, kind of perfect for an introduction. And it also kind of introduces the crowd to his Latin roots and his music and all that stuff, and all the disco and his colorful theatrical personality. For the crowd favorite, I picked, I count it. Some of you may not, but probably, fuck yourself. For the crowd favorite, I picked Que Pasa and Mino Popeye, which it's two songs that he released together and performed together, but technically they're two songs that were also released separately, but I'm counting it just because there's so many things that point towards it being one cohesive song that should be played together. So it's like listening to Raining Blood by Slayer. You kind of have to, it's like you have to listen to the two songs to make it like a full experience. It's his biggest hit. It was in a movie called, I forget what it was like Downtown something with Jean-Michel Basquiat. Some of you might have seen that. It's a pretty fucking indie movie. People who are relatively unfamiliar with his catalog have the highest chance of recognizing the song, and it's also just an incredible song. It has an incredible like rap verse, which is very offbeat for a 70s funk song. So my personal pick is going to be also a little bit of an offbeat one. It's going to be Mr. Softy, which is a Kid Creole and the Coconut song from when he was with the band. He is on the song and the band still tours, so I'm counting it. I just love this track. The funk and the moving bass line and August Darnell's vocals and the horn section. That's one thing I think will be great with his set, is that it's going to be very orchestral, which is going to also go with a lot of the other acts. And this is what I kind of mean by everything kind of flows together. A lot of the acts are going to be kind of flowing off one of another. The surprise track I picked was a song called Tropical Hot Dog Night. It's like an energetic cover of a Captain Beefheart song. And it's a very out of left field pick. I feel like not a lot of people know about that song, even if you listen to Cody Mundi. It's weird. I mean, picking a cover even for your set list. But his contributions on the track make it makes it his own, and it's very undeniable. And the closing track I picked was El Coco Loco, which is a mixture of like rap and salsa and Cody's comedic side. And I think it would be perfect to finish off with like this big, wild, theatrical number instead of just repeating another big hit. I think it would be great to, really go out with a bang and show the influence that he had, especially going into the other artists, and you'll recognize, that influence that he had. So that's gonna be my small artist for the set list. So with that, I guess we're gonna move into our mid-tier artists. So Lane, what do you have for mid-tier or for your mid-tier?
Yeah, so for my mid-tier artist, my festival kind of goes back and forth between two main things. The first one is like emo, mostly pop punk, but like a lot of emo in there too. And the second one is electronic music, a lot of modern electronic music. I talked about it in actually the first episode of season 2 of Pillowcast, where I reviewed Jane Remover's debut album. Where I've just been getting into a lot of that kind of music lately. And one of my favorite artists that I've discovered in that recent wave of the modern electronic EDM hyperpop scene is Subi Club. And I think Subi Club is like one of the best modern electronic artists currently. But he's a lot more than just electronic. I don't really think you should put him in that box because he does a lot of stuff with his music, specifically in the visual aspect, and that's why I really wanted to pick him for my mid-tier artist. So yeah, just some background. Before he was called Subi Club, before he started the project Subi Club, he was originally a producer known as Bisquick. That was his name. I think that's how you pronounce it. But he didn't start Subi Club until 2021 with its debut single, the project's debut single, Burbank House, which is still like their most streamed song on Spotify. So a very, very popular song. And actually, he only had one song out for like 3 years after that. Because his next single, which was called Laced Up, which I think is easily one of his best songs, came out 3 years after that. And the reason why it took so long for him to drop that song is because he was spending that entire time working on the music video for it. For those of you who have not heard of Subi Club or heard any of his music, I think the best way to get into his music and just get a feel for what he does is to watch the music video for Laced Up. It is absolutely incredible that a video like this was made without any sort of studio backing or anything, just done like solely independently, and it took him years to make it. And I think it turned out absolutely exceptional, and I think the video really adds to the song. So Laced Up is like probably the best place to start with Subi Club, just in terms of what songs you should listen to, but I would recommend watching the video with it too. And I think this year, actually, on April 1st, he announced that he would be dropping his debut album called Trinket. Which is, yeah, like I said, his debut album. Didn't take nearly as long for this album to come out as the single did. Because it's mostly just a lot of loose odds and ends, pretty much for the most part. Just kind of like little tracks that he made, whenever he was feeling like making music, and it's not that much deeper. But it's still an amazing album, and it's one that I would absolutely recommend. It's one of the best releases of this year, I think. So yeah, why would I add him to the festival? Firstly, newer artist. He's a newer artist in terms of his discography. I mean, he just dropped his debut album this year. He's been around for about 5 or so years, but he hasn't dropped a ton of music. So I think it could be really cool to give him a bigger audience with like a festival type setting like that. And his music is just very energetic, and I think it pairs very well with a lot of the bands on the lineup as well. I think it would help us sell it out just because, from what I know, Subi Club hasn't really done a whole lot of shows. I might be wrong about that, but up to this point, he hasn't done a lot of shows as Subi Club. So I think it could be really cool to have him on the bill. And I just think he adds something diverse and unique to the lineup, too. I think he's one of the most diverse acts in music currently, but also would be one of the most diverse acts on the bill. And would it be worth going to? Yeah, because as I said earlier, I think a big draw with Subi Club is his visuals. And I think he could put on a really, really cool show. I think the set would be more akin to like a DJ set, kind of like how Nina Girachi performs if you've ever seen her live. But I think the visuals would be a very big aspect of the show. Lots of stage props, lots of shit on the back, especially when he in the set list. I'm going to say now that Laced Up is in the set list. But it would kind of have like visuals from the video playing in the background, just like all sorts of stuff. So I think visually it would be. What's up?
Is Teddy Diary playing?
Teddy Diary is not playing, unfortunately. Yeah, no, sorry to say he's not. Maybe in the next Pillow playlist or
Okay.
Pillow cast or
Maybe next Pillow Fest next year.
hopefully, yeah. But yeah, I just think visually his set would be a spectacle to watch, and I think that that's a big reason that his set would be worth going to. Not to mention the music is also awesome. When it comes to the set list, I started off with Burbank House because it's his most popular song, his most streamed song. That was his first song under the Subi Club name. So I think it's a great introduction to Subi Club for the set list. And next I picked Landslide, which is the last song on his debut album Trinket. One of my favorite songs by Subi Club. I think it's really catchy. It's like, if you want to hit the ball farther, swing the bat harder. I think it's a really nice pickup after Burbank House, where he's just going even harder on the song as opposed to Burbank House, lyrically at least. And then after that, I picked Backboard, which is another one of my favorite songs off of Trinket. More of a, not necessarily a mellow track, but a nice follow up to Landslide. And then the fourth track is one that I actually can't pronounce because it doesn't really have a name. I think he gave it one, but I just can't remember off the top of my head what it is. But it's like you know how people will type things out and it'll be like a shrugging guy or like a crying face or whatever. The song title is A Crying Face typed out in text, so I don't really know how to pronounce it. But it's one of his it's probably the most popular song off Trinket at the moment. So that will probably be my number 4. And at number 5, the set's gonna end with Laced Up. I mean, it's fucking perfect. It is a perfect song. Probably one of my favorite songs of all time, honestly. I think it's incredible. And for the emo fans out there, if you are not aware of Subi Club, and this might turn you on to listening to him, if you are a fan of that kind of music and listening to this, the prominent sample in Laced Up by Subi Club is actually from the song This Must Be My Exit from the band Oso Oso. And I love Oso Oso. I love the album that song is off of. So when I heard Laced Up for the first time, I was like, holy shit, that's Oso Oso. And it's like the main sample for the song. So I thought that was really cool that he incorporated that into the main instrumental and kind of made that the motif of the track. So yeah, if that doesn't give you a reason to listen to Subi Club, find another reason and then listen to him because his music is fucking incredible. But yeah, that's my mid-tier artist for the festival would be Subi Club.
Yeah, it's a solid ass pick, definitely. I do like that Oso Oso call out for the sample. That's actually pretty fucking sick.
Oh no, absolutely. That sample is like
badass.
one of the most perfect samples in like any song I've ever heard.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out definitely. So I think me and Lane both kind of have a relatively cohesive lineup. I mean, so far at least. So the next, I mean, I do think it's interesting if this is all going to be under one stage or if it's going to be two. I would assume it's under one stage. It's only a 10 festival lineup. But going off of the fact that Lane has had 2 relatively emo artists, my next pick is going to be Breakbot, which is another dance artist. So I guess we'll be like crying and dancing at this festival. So yeah, my mid-tier artist is Breakbot. He doesn't have that many monthly because I feel like people don't actually listen to his music that much. He's a French producer and DJ. But he's also not riding like the coattails of Daft Punk or Justice. He took his own route on like, you know, going towards smooth disco and funk and more pop leaning tracks. And I picked him because I feel like he's an amazing bridge towards my headlining artist, and he has the perfect dance music to get a crowd moving and ready for the next acts going on, which they might not be prepared for, or maybe they will be prepared for. I don't know. He might not be the biggest ticket seller, but I think people who know him will definitely want to go out and see him. And also, I feel like in the terms of the lineup, my lineup wouldn't be the same without him. Fans who understand the connection between French house and disco and funk would see this performance and understand the kind of musical direction that my lineup is taking. And I feel like what makes his performance worth seeing is it's kind of seeing a new side of music. It was definitely a very new thing for me when I had first found it, and it also just get, you know, a huge crowd of people on their feet. But it's kind of like it's discovering something new, something not many people have heard about. And I also have a little bit of a fun fact about Breakbot once we get towards the set list, which we are now. So for the opening song, I picked Break of Dawn. It's actually the opener to his album, By Your Side, which is an incredible album. If you follow my photography account, I've talked about this album on there. And I recommend everyone listens to it. And the song itself was already crafted to be an opener. And it has, really groovy bass lines. I'm going to talk about bass and synth a lot during the set list because it's a very, recurring thing. Really groovy bass lines and his synths and his overall disco sound and the production. It shows his skill as like a DJ and a producer, and I think it's like the perfect opener. Now, the crowd favorite I picked is his song, Baby I'm Yours. This is a given. It became a meme like 10 years ago. Everybody knows this fucking song, even if it's not the bass boosted version. And some of you, if you have been around long enough, may recognize this track as the original theme song for Pillowcast years ago.
Wait,
God,
you were the clock that was ticking.
Yeah,
that's
that's Baby I'm
Is
Yours
that
by
really
Breakbot.
him?
Yeah, that's Breakbot. It's the ladies and gentlemen, we got a meme that was around like 10 years ago.
No fucking way, dude. That
So-
was the OG theme for like years.
Some of you who are around long enough may recognize that as the original Pillowcast theme.
Yeah, I'll probably
fans.
insert the old intro right here just for the sake of it. If you guys haven't heard it, I'm sure once you hear it, you'll recognize it instantly, even if you haven't heard the old episodes.
Was the clock that was ticking in my home. Changed my state of mind.
Ladies and
Love's
gentlemen,
so hard to find.
we got him.
Changed.
Yeah, definitely. So, if that clip plays, hopefully it does, you're going to probably recognize it because of the bass boosted meme version. If you listen to the actual song, it is fucking incredible. The music video blows me away every single time I watch it. And like I said, it's his most recognizable song. Everybody's going to know that song, whether they think it's funny maybe or whatever they think of it. They would know it, and they would be expecting the huge bass boosted version, but people who don't even know the song or know Breakbot, they would probably know this track, So I think that's definitely the crowd favorite. My personal pick is Fantasy, also off of By Your Side. I love this song. I think Ruckazoid's vocals ride through the song, and it has such a great dancey vibe with Breakbot's own style shining through it, and a synth riff that really, it gets you moving through the song, and it's super infectious. The surprise song I picked was My Toy. It really leans into the more like 80s style while keeping Breakbot's signature style. It's off of his 2016 album Still Waters. And the vocals, they're just, it's something like, Breakbot doesn't do this kind of style too much. It's very reminiscent of like a Mary Jane Girl song, or, even maybe like a later Katy Perry style song. It's a bit of a deeper cut off of Still Waters, but that's the one I would have picked. I would love to see that song live. I haven't seen Breakbot live, but I would absolutely love to. I think also, same as Lane, I haven't seen any of these artists, but one of them, hopefully, we'll see soon. And the closing song I picked was Get Lost. It's off of his 2016 album Still Waters. And it has the energy to end off the performance and still have everyone dancing and, keeping that movement going, and it maintains his smooth style before handing off the set to the next artist. Also, the song name is just perfect as a closing song, so I picked Get Lost. So that's mine. Go listen to Breakbot. Go listen to By Your Side. The album is beyond incredible. So Lane, what do you have? We're on our which category are we on?
I think it's the two like.
Oh yeah, we're doing the two supporting acts now. So
Yeah.
Lane, what is your first supporting act?
Sick Nasty. Okay, so this next one I'm actually very excited to talk about because they are probably one of my favorite bands of all time. And I just think they're super good. And that's the Wonder Years. I picked the Wonder Years for one of our supporting acts.
Lost in my head again. Sorry, since what it feels
Yeah, baby, let's go,
baby.
So the Wonder Years, the fucking goats, honestly. They formed in 2005. They're from Pennsylvania, another Pennsylvania representation. Love my PA bands. Specifically, they are from Philly. And yeah, they've been around for over 20 years. They're very, they've got a lot of years under their belt. They've got a lot of albums under their belt. And I think they're just one of the most consistent pop punk and honestly just rock bands ever. They have 7 albums, like I said. I even like their first one, which is Get Stoked on It, which when they started, they didn't really take themselves all that seriously. They were kind of just like a joke easycore band. So Get Stoked on It is a very just like tongue-in-cheek album, kind of making fun of the genre that they're playing. But then when the album started to get a little bit of traction, people around them were like, this is actually fucking like kind of fucking good. Like this fucks. You guys should actually make like some serious music. And so they released their next album, The Upsides, after that, and that really set them on their path to making some of the most classic albums in the genre, from Suburbia, I've Given You All, and Now I'm Nothing, to The Greatest Generation, to No Closer to Heaven. Like, they just have such an incredible discography, and it made it very difficult to choose songs from their discography, but I was able to narrow it down to 5, thankfully. But yeah, why did I add them? They're just one of the most popular and well-respected bands in their genre. And while they're not nearly as popular as some of the later acts, obviously, as they're just a supporting act, I think they're overall they will definitely bring a draw in, whether it's old fans coming back or new fans getting into them for the first time. I think they will definitely get a draw, especially because they hadn't necessarily been the most relevant until recently, actually, because they started, they re-released their album No Closer to Heaven for its 10th anniversary, did a complete remaster of it and everything. And I think the nostalgia from that record, along with them touring on it and everything, I think has definitely given them a bit of a boost in popularity. So I think this spot on the festival is also deserved in that regard. Yeah, like I said, they helped sell it out just because of regaining popularity after the anniversary of that album. And they're just a very respected band. And yeah, is it worth going to? Absolutely. They're a great live band. Anyone who's ever seen them live has said that they are just absolutely fantastic. They're one of the top bands on my my concert list for bands I would love to see live. So when it comes to the set list, this is actually one of the more interesting ones that I came up with. I mostly picked from 4 albums in them, which is their run from The Upsides to No Closer to Heaven. I think that's their peak, and I wanted to pick their best material. Not saying that the other albums are bad. I actually enjoy all of their albums. But that 4-album streak is easily their peak, in my opinion, so I wanted to pick songs primarily from that. So I started with probably my favorite song off of their album, The Upsides, which is Hostels and Brothels. Just fantastic. It's got a very good sing-along chorus to it, with the crowd chants and stuff in the song, the gang vocals. So I think it would be a great opener for the set, a nice obscure pick for the real fans that get it. And then I'm gonna go from Hostels and Brothels into their song Hoodie Weather, which is actually my favorite song from their 3rd album, Suburbia. Just a really, really punchy chorus on that one. Fantastic song. Kind of an underrated one, honestly. Just one of my favorite deep cuts from the band. I think it's fantastic. I tried to pick for this band. I tried to pick kind of deep cuts for a lot of the set list, which is kind of weird. But on there is some hard hitters in here as well. With actually the 3rd track on here is one of their more popular ones from their album No Closer to Heaven, Cigarettes and Saints. Probably one of the most emotionally intense songs they've ever made. Just that ending with Dan just screaming the vocals, like it is just so emotionally intense, and I think it would be a great middle of the set list. And then it tones things down just a little bit musically with The Devil in My Bloodstream, which is easily my favorite Wonder Years song. Starts out with piano, we get a nice break from the guitars and goes into some soft piano for the first half, and then goes back into the guitars for the second half with easily one of the best choruses I've ever heard in my life. Just the reoccurring motif that goes throughout the entirety of the Greatest Generation album, along with all the other songs as they weave in and out of the track list as well. But this is like the defining song, in my opinion, of the concept and the story behind their album, The Greatest Generation. And so if I was going to put any song off of that, which there are definitely more popular songs off of Greatest Generation that I could have pulled, but I think Devil in My Bloodstream is the best representation of the album as a whole, and so that's why I picked it. And then number 5, I decided to go with Came Out Swinging, just because it's their biggest hit, their most successful, most recognizable song. It's a great concert finisher. They usually finish their encores with this song when they perform live, so I felt it was a good idea. Added there in the end. It's a fantastic song. It's a perfect song. No wonder it's their biggest hit. Fantastic. So, yeah. The Wonder Years, they're going to be one of my 2 supporting acts. I love the Wonder Years. If anyone here is listening to this and has not listened to the Wonder Years, honestly, like, any of their early stuff is great. Their later stuff is great too. But if I were to recommend an album personally, The Greatest Generation is just one of the best albums I've ever heard ever. So if you're in the market for new pop punk music, the Wonder Years are fucking great and definitely worth checking out. So
I agree.
Yeah.
The Wonder Years fucking bang. Those dudes are badass as hell. I would fucking love to see the Wonder Years eventually. I haven't seen them yet, but definitely something I want to get to soon. So yeah, that was a great. I definitely am noticing a pattern here. I can't tell the direction that this festival. I don't know who this is gonna attract. I'm gonna be entirely honest.
Hopefully, a lot of people with all the variety in here.
I feel like the biggest crossover is like probably Gorillaz fans. Like I feel like that's like the most like the people who would be listening to both of our set lists here.
I can see that. Yeah.
I think it's gonna be like Gorillaz fans or some shit.
Which isn't a bad thing. I think Gorillaz are cool.
No. They're cool. Honestly, I'm surprised they didn't put them on my set list. I also want to give an honorable mention for my mid-tier artist. I wasn't gonna use. I mean, sadly they passed away in a car accident, but I wanted to give an honorable mention to Hers, the indie band.
Oh shit!
I wanted to put them on my mid-tier, but I decided against it. But huge shout out to them. Go listen to fucking Hers. They're awesome. Rest in peace. So yeah, I was gonna put that in my mid-tier. Anyways, going on to my first supporting act, I'm going to pick. Funnily enough, Liam was talking about home state artists. I'm gonna pick Thundercat, who is an artist from LA. Shout out LA, represent.
There's blood on the floor, and I can't find my heart. Where did it go? Did I leave it in the cold? So please give it back.
He's known for like his bass and his vocals and his songwriting and his producing. He's kind of like a jack of all trades. He's played with bands like Suicidal Tendencies and Mac Miller and Kendrick Lamar. And
did he really play with Suicidal?
He did. He played with Suicidal for a while.
That's insane. I had no clue. I fucking love Suicidal. Actually, I talked about them last episode. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. Thundercat he rips. So I think he's a perfect companion for the next supporting artist. He takes a lot of jazz and funk influence, and he's very complex with his musicianship. And I picked him because he adds something newer and something with a different type of influence, but also taking from disco and jazz and funk and similarly to Breakbot, in that way. I wanted to highlight how music has changed, but still kind of kept its roots, which is kind of where my lineup goes. It's starting off with the small artist, and that's a guy who had his hand in the roots of disco and funk music in the 70s, and then it goes on to the people that were inspired by that music in different ways, very different music. Could he sell at the festival? Probably not sell. Like he would definitely sell tickets, I think. He would bring a very wide audience of jazz fans and hip hop fans, especially, and funk fans who know and love his work. And what makes his performance worth attending is his bass playing would definitely be a huge attraction, but he can keep a song. If you watch his live shows, he can keep a song going into a very extended jam, and it'll feel like, like a personal jam session. I feel like it would be a lot more intimate, and it will be a great addition to, a huge festival crowd. He can improvise with the band and go into another song, and it would be, kind of like a marvel to see him work that way live. It'd be incredible. So, the first song I picked for the opening is Captain Stupido off of his album Drunk. I feel like it kind of introduces everyone to Thundercat's comedic side and his smooth, high-pitched vocal side and his impressive instrumentation and production. That whole album, it's really incredible. For the crowd favorite, I was kind of stuck between two different ones, but I ended up putting them both on the set list, actually. So for the crowd favorite, I put Them Changes. Everyone's heard this song probably off of TikTok. It's easily his biggest song and an essential of his to play. It leans toward his appreciation for older influences in his music. It uses the same drum pattern as the Isley Brothers' Footsteps in the Dark. So that opening drum pattern and that groovy ass bass line, that bass line like rips. It flows like fucking water. And the opening lyrics would be instantly recognizable. It would get a crowd going like crazy. My personal favorite is Interstellar Love. This is one of my personals because it's a more ambitious jazz influence track. The drums on that album kick absolute ass. There's an amazing saxophone feature by Kamasi Washington, who shows off his skill and his influence from people like Miles Davis and John Coltrane. So if you're into jazz, definitely check that out. Shout out to Mari. For my closing track, this is the one I was talking about when it came to the crowd favorite. I chose Funny Thing. It's a short, fucking really funky, catchy song built around that booming bass. It's also a song that a lot of his fans know. It's one of his biggest songs, and it would be an amazing way to leave the crowd to go on to the next artist. So for my surprise track, I had picked the song She Knows Too Much. if you know the song, you know that it is not possible to play it live, and I'm not using any type of technicality on this, because it is a very recently released song that Thundercat released with Mac Miller, off of his 2026 album, Distracted. I love this song, and when I envision it in my head, I would want him to perform the song with the music video in the background and having Mac Miller's vocals as, playing over the speakers and stuff. So that's why I said, it's not any technicality of like, oh, if Mac Miller, whatever. I'm taking it more as a homage to Mac Miller and as a showing an appreciation for Mac Miller. Me and Lane both fucking love Mac Miller, and I think it would be, a great way to pay homage to him. So that's my surprise song is She Knows Too Much, and I think it would be amazing to hear him perform a Mac song live, in honor of him. So that's my 5 songs for Thundercat. So we're going on to our second supporting artist. Lane, who do you have for your second supporting artist?
Yeah, so keeping with the theme here going with pop punk, emo, and in modern electronic music, I have probably the GOAT of modern electronic, hyperpop, whatever the hell. They've kind of done a lot of things, but they're up there with like the Nina Girachis and the underscores of the modern day. And just one of my favorite artists of all time. We got Jane Remover. We got Jane Remover in here. So I've talked about Jane's music on this podcast before. Actually, as I mentioned earlier in the first episode of season 2, I reviewed their debut album Frailty. But just for more background on Jane's music, they had actually been making music for like 10 years. They didn't really blow up until like the beginning of the 2020s with their EP Teen Week and some of their early singles before that. They've been making music for like years and years before that. They started out under an alias called Hate Page, where they were making like electronic instrumentals and shit. They had some other projects, and then they started the Jane Remover project like under a different name around the end of 2019, 2018, around then, with some like singles and stuff. But they really started to pick up steam with their debut EP Teen Week, that really put them on the map. And then their debut album Frailty, which came out in 2021, which is just one of my favorite albums ever. And there is representation of it in the set list, but I'll explain why that's a little unrealistic, but I'll get into it later. They've really experimented with all sorts of styles, and it kind of makes them fit anywhere, honestly. They've done a lot of their early stuff was more pop, more so in the hyper pop lane of stuff. And then in around 2023 with their album Census Designated, it's a very indie rock shoegazy kind of album. And they have a side project as well called Venturing that is just solely alt rock music, which is fantastic. Venturing is also super, super cool. There isn't any Leroy on this list, which is their other side project where they do like really intense like EDM instrumentals and shit, most notably Daria Core on the Daria Core series of albums. Didn't include those just because there aren't really Jane Remover vocals on them. They're mostly instrumental albums. So didn't include that, although every now and again they do pull out a Leroy song and perform it live. So I did actually include the Venturing song on the list though, so you will see that. But as of recently, with their latest album, Revenge Seekers, which came out last year, they've really been experimenting with rage rap and just a lot of other cool stuff on Revenge Seekers. The production was just absolutely incredible, and I think it translates very well into a live setting. So yeah, a lot of those reasons are why I would include Jane Remover. Just a lot of variety in the music, and they're actually the most popular they've ever been currently. So I think that would be a cool draw to the set list. Like that brings into the next category why they would help sell it out. They're just super super popular right now, and also why they would help sell out kind of bleeds into the songs I picked, because I picked some songs that they probably wouldn't play live anymore currently. Specifically one of them, but I'll get into that when I get to the songs. And yeah, worth going to, yes. Jane's stage presence and just her energy and shit on stage is just incredible, and they really know how to command a crowd, so I think it would just be a very energetic set list. With most of the songs, honestly. Which brings me into the songs I picked, which, as I said earlier, could or could not be kind of an unrealistic set list. Because I picked a lot of earlier songs, but also some newer ones as well. And the first two songs are actually off of their debut album, Frailty, which is something that they rarely ever do anymore, is play songs from Frailty. It was made during a very different time in their life, so these songs don't really hold a lot of weight for them anymore, and I understand why they don't play them live anymore. The first song in the set list is Your Clothes, which is probably my favorite Jane Remover song, and then after that is Movies for Guys, which is probably the most popular song off of Frailty. And Movies for Guys isn't entirely impossible, because they do break that one out occasionally, along with Home Switcher sometimes. They did that fairly recently. But Your Clothes is like a no-show. That's probably never going to be in the set list ever again. But just to spice things up a little bit, I think it would draw people in to hear Jane play some older songs that she hadn't really played before, or at least hadn't played in a hot minute. So I think that would definitely draw people in, especially if you were listening to Jane around the Teen Week Frailty era. But then the third pick is actually my favorite song from their Venturing side project, which they do occasionally play Venturing songs at Jane Remover shows as well. So wanted to include one of those. It was a toss-up between Dead Forever and In the Dark, two of my favorite songs off the Venturing project. But I decided to go with Dead Forever, which is my favorite song off the Ghost Holding album. Just one of their best choruses they've ever written, honestly. I think it's just a really impactful song. And I think it would be a nice break from the electronic into more of an alt-rock direction. And that lane continues a little bit, along with the more mellow tone that the setlist has taken. But the next track, which is Dream Sequence, off of the recent EP, which is, I guess people are calling it the Heart EP now. There's actually a few versions of this song. It originated actually as a Venturing song, and they remade it for the Heart EP as Jane Remover. I love both versions, but the one that will be performed in the set list would be the Jane Remover version. It's just fantastic. It's easily one of my favorite Jane songs. I think it would be one of those songs where the crowd is like shining their flashlights in the air and shit. Like, it's one of those songs for the set list. And I think it's a nice tone breaker in the middle there. And at the end, similarly to what I did with the Wonder Years, I decided to put their most popular song, which is Dancing with Your Eyes Closed. It doesn't necessarily fit the vibe of the set list. It's definitely one of the more hyper songs off of Revenge Seekers in terms of just like the thump of the beat, and just it kind of is similar to some of the songs on Frailty in the sense where there's a lot of jittery, just electronic sounds in it. So I think it could definitely fit in kinda with the rest of the set list. And I just think it's a great ender. It's very high energy, and it's the song that, if you're listening to Jane Remover currently, if you've heard a song or two, this is probably one of the ones that you've heard. It's definitely her most popular track up to this point, and one that people would probably recognize coming to a set list and coming to a festival like this. This is definitely the one they would recognize. So I think it would be a really cool ending to the set list. And yeah, there are so many songs I could have picked from this. There were so many different just variations of the set list that I had, because Jane's just done so much. I was thinking about making it more of an alt-rock set list and employing stuff from Senses Designated and Venturing, like, solely, to round up the set list. I thought about making it, like, just old songs and having stuff from Teen Week and Frailty, like, make up the entire set list. And then I thought about doing some later era stuff, just solely Revenge Seekers and status update music and, like, the new Leroy shit. I thought about doing that, but I decided to kind of combine all of that together into this set list. It's not perfect, but I think with how much music Jane has, it's kind of hard to come up with just 5 songs to represent their entire catalog. But I tried my best, and I think it does play a good part in keeping the set list diversified, a lot of variety in terms of the lineup of the bands and also the music in the set list. Yeah, Jane Remover. So much more I could talk about when it comes to Jane Remover. I'll leave it there. That's my second headliner.
Hell yeah, if you haven't already, we have Lane has a Pillowcast episode talking about Jane Remover, so you can also go check that out if you're in Jane Remover. I also think Jane Remover is a great choice in terms of just the grand scheme of both me and his set list. I think it fits in with one of the past artists I have, and then one of the the headliner I'm gonna pick. But I haven't hinted at my headliner enough, and it's not obvious, but then you'll see. But anyways, my second pick for my supporting artist is going to be the legend himself, sorry. No, it's not, I'm not, okay. Jamiroquai. Jamiroquai is a band, not a person.
Speed freak, you know I am. Fast out there to speed and run out, slow down. You got to, or you get down. Cause if I don't, I might just lose it. Locked up. You got me.
don't know Jamiroquai, you do, but if you don't know Jamiroquai, they're a British funk and acid jazz band, not an artist. People think he's an artist, and I also fucked that up right now. But it is led by singer J.K. They are easily the biggest acid oh my fucking god, acid jazz. Look, bro, I just got off the coattails of writing my acid bath article. I'm sorry. They're the biggest.
The Jamiroquai acid bath crossover.
Dude, that'd be amazing. I'm gonna write an article about that. They're the biggest artists in the acid jazz genre, blending like 70s funk and soul and jazz and disco and a modern dance sound. And I'm a huge fan of Jamiroquai, so picking the 5 songs for this was especially hard. I mean, especially because they have so many hits. In my opinion, him and Thundercat complement each other immensely, both with their funk and jazz influence. You know, one being an older artist, and one being a newer artist, but both inspired by that same groove. You know, it is one nation under a groove, really. And going back to Cody Mundi, Jamiroquai is also very well known for his big outgoing outfits, which Cody was also a big part of back in the day. So in that aspect, they also complement each other. Could they help sell out the festival? 100%. I believe so. They'd be one of the biggest contributors in ticket sales, in my opinion. It wouldn't be completely on their own, but they would move a lot of tickets. And this is one that I said earlier that hopefully I'll be able to see soon. He is on a tour of South America, so hopefully he'll stop by the north and I'll be able to see the Quai. They would move a lot of tickets. They have a bunch of recognizable hits and a loyal fan base that definitely crosses over with the other acts in the festival and appeal to older funk fans as well as the younger listeners. And what makes this set worth attending is Jamiroquai's music is built to be played live, in my opinion. The bass and the drums and the keys and the horns and JK's incredible stage presence would create a loose and energetic feel, and this would probably create one of the biggest dance parties in the festival. So for the opening song, I picked Dynamite. This is the title track off his album Dynamite. No pun intended, but it would give him a very explosive entrance. With the crowd being able to, chant that chorus and a bass line that makes you want to dance with, an electric funk production. It's the perfect song for JK to make his entrance and represents their more modern side before the set moves into the band's more classic songs. It's also one of the, not the opener, but one of the first few songs you hear off of that album. I think especially just hearing that opening would be it would be insane. It would be fucking amazing. And I was torn between that and Feels Just Like It Should for the opener. They would both be incredible openers, but at the end of the day, I stuck it with Dynamite. The crowd favorite was relatively easy. It was tossed up between this or another song, which also is on the set list. Crowd favorite is Virtual Insanity. Everyone knows this. Everyone knows this fucking song. It became a meme before, it was like a few years ago. This one was a bit harder because, like I said, they have many hits. But at the end of the day, I think Virtual Insanity will be the biggest one that people know. I'd say it's their most recognizable song, and the entire crowd would know it. Not only from the song, but also from the imagery in the music video of him sliding around on the floor and that fucking Family Guy clip that was talking about the song. My personal pick, also off of Dynamite, is 7 Days in Sunny June. Shout out my homie David for this pick, and also putting him on to Jamiroquai. I've always known about Jamiroquai, but he, really intensified that for me. It's a slower Jamiroquai track that doesn't abandon their groove at all, and the chorus echoes through your head whenever you hear it. It's one of the catchiest things I've ever experienced, It's also not a track that they play much to my knowledge, which is kind of lame. I think it's definitely something they should include on their set list. But I love that it's a representation of like the mellow side of the band, and it'll be that kind of break in the middle of the set that is, that chilled out and that cooled out, portion. So for the surprise song, I chose Too Young to Die. I think this song would be a really great return to their early material, that very early Jamiroquai material. It's a very socially conscious message, and especially very timely right now, given the political climate of the world right now, the political and economic state of the world, and what, so yeah, and I think one thing people don't really know about Jamiroquai and JK was that he had some pretty fucking like punk tracks. This song is talking about how the government does nothing and kills, and innocent people are dying every day and they kill innocent people for no reason. And it would be it's a very orchestral song, so it'd be very chilling to hear all the instruments on this track with all the violins and the horns. And this is definitely a track that I don't think many people would expect to hear live, so I think that was definitely great. It would be perfect for the surprise. And the closing song was the one that I was having trouble tossing up between the fan favorite. I chose the song Canned Heat. Everyone knows the song. And I think for the biggest supporting artist, this would be a perfect closer next, near Virtual Insanity. This would easily be his biggest. Due in part to Napoleon Dynamite, of course. If you've seen Napoleon Dynamite, you know this song. And the name itself is literally about the uncontrollable need to dance, the feeling of wanting to dance. And it would be more than a perfect way to end that set. The audience has been through all the famous songs, the deeper cuts, the mellow songs, and now the last thing to do is kind of turn the crowd into like a huge dance floor, basically. There's no doubt the crowd would be like screaming the lyrics to the song. Even just hearing the opening bass loop and the violins, it would make everyone like freak the fuck out. I get goosebumps just fucking thinking about it. So that's going to be my closing song. If you have not listened to Jamiroquai, please go listen to Jamiroquai. That band is fucking incredible. But now, without further ado, we have our last two artists. We have our headlining artist who's going to be the top billing at Pillowfest. Lane, who do you have for your headliner?
Who do I have for my headliner? Well, I'm going to tell you. The headliner was probably the hardest part of this entire thing for me, which is kind of interesting because usually when you think headliner, you think like the biggest artist on the bill. And I would say in terms of legacy, this band is absolutely the biggest and most important band on the bill. In terms of current popularity, I wouldn't say they're the biggest. But it just felt right. Like it felt right to include them. And I had a few other artists I wanted to include on this. Obviously, the first one that came to mind was Modern Baseball. I was going to use my wild card for Modern Baseball, but I ended up doing it for Brave Little Abacus instead. So, Modern Baseball didn't make the festival. And the second honorable mention before I get into the headliner is I was going to add, instead of the band that I ended up picking for the headliner, I was going to do The Story So Far. That was another band that I had. For the headliner, they are easily like the most popular they've ever been currently. But I wanted the band that had a lot more legacy and a lot more influence as the headlining act. And coming off of electronic bands and artists in this festival, along with more pop punk bands, it just felt right. I was very confident in my pick for this one. I don't know if Landen has any ideas on what it could be. I kind of have an idea what Landen's headliner is.
I'm sure, honestly, given everything that I've been saying and some of the picks I've said, I'm sure that you could guess, but honestly, I have no idea what yours is because I thought yours was going to be Modern Baseball.
No, I thought it was going to be Modern Baseball too when I started this. And as I said, they were absolutely in contention. But the band that I ended up choosing for my headliner for my Pillow Fest is Motion City Soundtrack. That's my headliner for the festival.
I lose control. It's just one thing you should know. This is for real. This time with me. Don't come and play. Please don't let go. Something is nuts. You can take it or leave it.
Yeah. So Motion City Soundtrack, they formed in 1997, but they didn't really get a footing until the early 2000s with their debut album I Am the Movie. They formed in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They from Minneapolis. And yeah, they're just one of my favorite bands ever. They're just so good. And a big reason why it felt right to include them, number one, they've been around for a very long time. They're a very influential band in the indie rock, pop punk scene in terms of that. So many modern bands have been influenced by Motion City Soundtrack. And two, one of the big elements of their sound is the keyboards and the Moog synthesizer specifically. You'll hear it a lot on their first three albums, specifically on Commit This to Memory, which is just one of my favorite albums ever made, period. But all of the synthesizers on that album are just so catchy. Even on their first album, I Am the Movie, it's very... a lot of people call their sound very sugary and like a sugar rush. A biggest example of that would be their third album, Even If It Kills Me, which is another great album by them. But that whole album really does feel like a sugar rush, like you're just on a sugar high the whole time. And a big part of that is because of the synthesizers throughout their music. So I thought it was a cool bridging the gap. They are still mostly like a pop punk band, but I feel like those little synths add some sugar, some quality of life. They help tie everything together. So yeah, overall on the back to why I picked them, I kind of already explained it. They've had a very long career, very influential, and the sounds kind of overlap with the other acts, so it makes sense. While they would help sell it out, like I said earlier, they are not the biggest currently. But they are they're not necessarily a legacy band. They still make music and they're still like doing shit and everything. They don't have to rely on their old songs. But they've gained quite a large fan base over the years, and people have started bands because of them, and they're just very influential and important. So I think that could definitely help them sell out the festival with being the headliner, or at least one of the headlining bands. Um, are they worth going to? I sure think so. One, because they're just great live, still to this day. Even with a lot of the things that Justin Pierre, their lead singer, has gone through, in the last few years, in terms of his health, he still gets up on stage and like kicks ass every fucking night. So absolutely, they're amazing musicians. They've got great songs, have very high energy, lots of classics in their discography. So that, and also whenever I was coming up with the songs that I wanted them to play, I decided to limit myself to just the first 3 albums. It was a little tough because My Dinosaur Life is also fantastic, and there's a lot of sugary stuff on there too. But the biggest thing with My Dinosaur Life is they kind of got rid of a lot of the synths on that album, which is interesting because Mark Hoppus produced it, who also produced Commit This to Memory from Blink-182. He came back and produced My Dinosaur Life.
Hoppus?
Yeah, Hot Mulligan.
Fuck yeah, bro.
Hell yeah. Yeah, but he produced their second album, Commit This to Memory, and he came back to produce their 4th album, My Dinosaur Life, which is a great album, but it lacks a lot of the synths and stuff, which is interesting because Mark produced both those albums. It's interesting. I don't know why they decided to do that, but since that's the case, I decided to go for more of their classic material and a lot of their early stuff, which brought me down to the first 3 albums, which I think fits the festival the best. So in terms of the set list, I decided to start the set list off with actually their most popular song, Everything Is Alright. It's the song that most people would know by them, and I think it's a great start to the set list. So I think I don't think there's anywhere else that could go with that, really. But second in the set list is actually kind of a deep cut, from their debut album, I Am the Movie. Not one of the biggest songs. I could have gone for some of the other ones, like The Future Freaks Me Out or Your Favorite Accident, probably some of the more popular songs off that album.
Baseball reference?
Yeah. Well, actually, Modern Baseball references that song, "The Future Freaks Me Out," in their song "Redo" from Sports, which is I actually found Motion City soundtrack from listening to Modern Baseball because Brennan Jake there's like an acoustic cover of Brennan Jake with some other bands performing the song "When You're Around" from Commit This to Memory, and that's how I found the band. So yeah, Modern Baseball just constantly making my life better. Yeah, the second song from I Am the Movie that I picked for the second track in the set list, not the second song from the album, would be Perfect Teeth, which is easily my favorite song off the album, and just one of my favorite Motion City soundtrack songs in general. Keeps the energy going for sure. And then the third track is a song from their third album, Even If It Kills Me, probably my favorite song on the album, Calling All Cops. I just really love the vocal melodies on this song. I just love how the song progresses. Like I said, there are definitely bigger songs that I could have chosen from the album, like This Is For Real, It Had to Be You, songs like that. But Calling All Cops just has always stood out to me as my favorite on the album, and I would love to see them play that one if I ever see them live. I would love to see them live at some point. They're so good. But I decided to go with Calling All Cops for the third song. And then fourth song, I went with LG Fuad, or Let's Get Fucked Up and Die. Probably one of their more popular songs, again, one of their most recognizable songs. It kind of has, it's not necessarily like a ballad really, but it kind of fits that mode in the context of the album of Commit This to Memory. There's a lot of acoustic guitars, and it kind of has an uplifting message in a way. It's very interesting how the lyrics pan out, but I think in terms of the lyrics, it's one of the best songs that they ever wrote. And just it's a concert highlight whenever they play it live. The crowd, a lot of the time, the band doesn't even have to sing the opening lyrics because the crowd fills it in for them. So it's just a very heavy fan favorite. And I think definitely adds to kind of the more mellow nature of Calling All Cops, following that with LG Fuad. And actually, I decided to end the set list with actually a slower song as opposed to just like one of their more popular ones or a big rocking song. And that's actually the closing track on Commit This to Memory, which is Hold Me Down. Kind of a devastating song lyrically, where the lyrics are kind of talking about a relationship where he still loves the person that he's in the relationship with, but he feels like that they're holding him back and they're holding him down, as the song title implies. And the song is kind of a letter to himself, talking about how he's going to break the news to his partner that he can't do it anymore and he needs to focus on himself. And also, fun fact for all the Teddy Diary fans out there, not really, but the song that I wrote called Jackie's Gerbil, the title is actually taken from this song, Hold Me Down. Kind because lyrically it's held a lot of weight for me, especially in the past. And it still gets me emotional to this day. I think it would be a fantastic closer for the set list. I think it's a fantastic closer on the album, so why wouldn't it be for the show? Yeah, that's my set list for originally soundtrack. I find it really interesting because assuming what I think Landon's top pick is, just judging off of that and judging from the other bands he's had, I find it very interesting that even though Motion City Soundtrack is probably the most well-known and recognizable band in my list, like, they still don't have, like, 1 mil on Spotify. Like, it is, I feel like if we were to combine our set lists, like, most of my bands probably wouldn't reach, like, the mid-tier or like the supporting act. It's very interesting how it panned out. But in terms of the structure of my list, they are easily the best and most like impactful, important band. So that's who I chose for my my headliner was Motion City Soundtrack.
That is a fucking solid ass headliner, and a solid ass lineup too. That's like really fucking good. So for my headliner, I also do want to point out, we were given the option for our wild card picks to be a prime artist, so an artist in their prime, a headliner, or for not headliner, a prime artist, a reunion, or you can bring someone back that died, for a performance. So, originally, I was going to pick prime Kanye to be my headliner. I could have done Kanye now, but I'm not gonna risk it. I was gonna pick prime Kanye because I thought it would be a great pick, but I figured something else would have fit better in every aspect. And I didn't want somebody with just enough hits to close out the festival. I wanted a performance that would turn Pillowfest into like an actual moment in like music history. When it comes to all my artists, they were all kind of formed around the general concept of this. Cody Mundi brings Latin percussion and disco roots, and the original sound of what a lot of these bands and artists go for. Breakbot carries the French touch sound into a whole nother generation and with its own style. Thundercat, he brings his own musicianship and in his own way, and Jamiroquai, it's kind of showing that dance music, it's very much still alive, even with a band behind it. So I wanted a headliner that it needed artists who could connect all of those sounds and be very cohesive, and someone that would stand out and be like, oh my god, I need to go to this. And who's, I'm using my wild card here because it is a reunion, if that gives you any more hints. If you haven't guessed it already, I'd be surprised.
I think I have it. Like, I'm so confident that I know what it is.
Yeah. And whose return would make Pillowfest feel like a once in a lifetime event. It's been more than a decade since they've performed. And they kind of left without a trace. So, my headliner is The Blue Idiot. Yeah, Amari Ace Evers. That's my headline.
Hell yeah!
Okay,
that's exactly what I thought it was going to be too.
Exactly. Okay, so if you haven't guessed it already, my headliner is the one and only Daft Punk. They're one of my favorite artists.
I knew it.
Everyone knows Daft Punk. Everyone knows they're the French electronic duo. They wear the robot masks. They help push French house music into the worldwide mainstream. They were known for their pop and disco sampling with their electronic production and, their whole robot image. They never showed their faces really, except for, way early on. I picked Daft Punk because, they're known to put on an incredible show. Alive 2007, in my opinion, was one of the greatest live performances ever, both visually and, auditory. They would be the ultimate headliner. Everyone knows almost every song that they would play, and it gives the people that go into the festival the reunion of a lifetime, really. And they also tie together the real musical identity of the festival, or at least of I think of the entire festival, not even just my lineup. There's a lot of different music that goes on here that I think would, very much take influence from Daft Punk. Whether that be lyrically or the sound, artists like Jane Remover probably. So it mixes in perfectly with artists like Breakbot and take influences from, in their samples from artists like Cody Mundi. And tonally they match with other artists like, Jamiroquai and Thundercat, making my entire set list blend kind of seamlessly. Could they sell at the festival? 100%. I totally believe so. They'd be the selling point of the festival. They could probably
sell it out on their own.
Yeah, they could sell at the festival before anyone else was announced, for sure. A Daft Punk performance is much more than just two dudes performing their songs, Their live sets have always, rebuilt and combined their tracks, their transitions and mashups with their visuals and the lights and everything. So this was especially hard for me to pick 5 songs because there are hundreds of songs they've made, that I could have picked. There's so many good ones. And also picking the order that I wanted them to go in was hard. But the crowd favorite, for the opening song I picked was Defunk. It would start the festival off with one of the earliest Daft Punk songs that helped kind of establish their sound and their, them as a duo, but also a song that's very familiar. And throughout the song, the track kind of builds, it's drums, then it's bass, then it's synths. So hearing that hearing the track build would be perfect, especially for the visuals that Daft Punk are known for. The massive stage, the videos, the visuals, the lights, the lights are everywhere. If you've seen 2007, Alive 2007 at Coachella, you fucking know how insane a Daft Punk performance is. It is one of the most incredible things you could ever see. Like, honestly, I compare it, because this actually got to happen. I compare it to if This Is It, the Michael Jackson tour, ever actually happened. They would be, like, on par with each other. Daft Punk Alive 2007 is, like, it's that fucking good. And even if you just listen to the album is beyond incredible. So the crowd favorite, everyone knows what the fucking crowd favorite's going to be. At least I would think. I was actually torn between 2, but I think everyone knows it's going to be Get Lucky. Get Lucky is one of Daft Punk's biggest songs and one of the biggest songs of the 2010s as a whole, easily. It reached so far beyond electronic fans and it went so far into the mainstream. In the presence of Pharrell Williams could turn the festival, it would fucking be insane of having him come out there. The song itself would also, he might not need to be out there, but the song itself featuring Nile Rodgers of Chic, it gives another homage to disco and funk and, the music that shaped their sound and the music they make. So for my personal pick, I picked Digital Love off of Discovery. It's a very dreamy and a very beautiful song with an absolutely killer breakdown that sounds like, it sounds like a guitar solo, but it's being played through synths. And this song has always been one of my favorites since I've started getting into Daft Punk. It would also be a big tonal shift from songs like Defunk, and it would be utilized as like the softer emotional center of the set, similar to the Jamiroquai set. And the music would kind of pick up from there. I was actually really excited about this next one. So for the surprise song, I chose Music Sounds Better With You by Stardust. And it's not a Daft Punk song, but they have played it live because it was released, even though it was released by Stardust, it was a group featuring Tomas Bangalter who was the silver robot in Daft Punk. So they have played it live. If you listen to Alive 2007, they play it at the end of the set list. So that's a big reason why I think it would be a huge surprise. It's kind of like an offbeat. I mean, you wouldn't expect it. It's not a fucking Daft Punk song. But also the song is just fucking amazing. It's incredible. Everyone knows that song without a doubt. So that's my surprise song. I was very excited to point that one out. And the closing song I picked was One More Time. Kind of bitter irony having it be the closer song to a band that is not getting back together. But One More Time as a closer would give the set, kind of a very emotional and celebratory ending. Hearing the song right as you think the set's going to end, you think the set's going to end and they're not going to play it, but then, that song comes out. I think it would make the whole audience freak out. It would make me freak the fuck out. The visuals from their movie Interstellar 5555 would, they could play in the background, and the name itself, like I said, it's a bit of bitter irony. So that's why I chose Daft Punk for our set list. So, before we wrap this up, I would like to go down. Lane, do you want to go through Just who is your, or you know, we can actually go back and forth. So Lane, do you want to just go, we'll go down the list. So you start with your smaller artist, and then I'll go back and we'll go back and forth.
Yeah. Are we gonna do the songs too, or just the artists themselves?
We can just do the artist, just so we'll get a quick rundown of how our festival is feeling.
Yeah, sick as fuck. So for my small fuck. For my small artist, I had the Brave Little Abacus.
All right, and then for our second small artist, bottom billing is going to be Cody Mundi. You know what? Sure.
I mean, fuck it, whatever.
All right, who do we got for mid tier?
Mid tier we got for me on my end is a Subi Club.
All right, and then I've got Breakbot on mine for the mid tier. That's honestly, I would go to both their sets. That's pretty.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. I think those work together very well.
All right, and then we have the first supporting artist.
I got the Wonder Years for that.
See, and I've got Thundercat. Also, honestly, a fucking banger back-to-back set.
Yeah,
That's
no,
like really
that
fucking
actually
solid.
works a lot better than I thought it would.
Thinking about it, you know, like in, you know, kind of just a passing thought, it's kind of like, oh, that's odd. But now that it's like, hearing them back-to-back would be honestly a really fucking solid experience. I think that'd be
Oh, no,
super
absolutely.
fucking fun. And then we have our second supporting artist.
Oh, I had Jane Remover for that one.
Jane Remover into Jamiroquai, honestly, I'm kind of all for it.
It's very interesting. Like out of all the artists on your list, Jamiroquai is definitely the one I'm the most familiar with. Like
Yeah.
I've actually heard like full length albums from him. So like listening to that and going to like Gene Remover, there are definitely songs where they could work together. I just don't think the songs I picked would. But in terms of like their overall career, I feel like that could be interesting.
Yeah, Jamiroquai kind of spans a lot of different genres.
Yeah, I think so.
So then we have our headliners. So who do you have?
Motion City soundtrack.
We have Motion City soundtrack, and then we have Daft Punk. Honestly, also back to back would be fucking insane. That would
Oh
be
no,
pretty
absolutely. I feel
fucking
like the high energy from like the early songs in the Motion City soundtrack set would work very well. And I think it would be nice because assuming that Daft Punk is playing right after them, having like the later songs in the set that I made for them be like softer, like low energy. I feel like it would just give more impact to Daft Punk coming on afterward.
Yeah. So I mean, with that, Pillowfest, 10 artists, 1 day, and probably a budget that would bankrupt us immediately. For some fucking reason, someone gave us permission to make up our own festival, which was a horrible idea. So yeah, that's gonna be Pillowfest. If it happens one day, then maybe it'll happen. Also, I do intend, if Lane can throw this up on the screen, I will make a festival flyer for our entire festival. So you'll probably see that on CBL Magazine's Instagram. And yeah, so Lane, do you wanna close this out?
Yeah, absolutely. On the visual upload of this on YouTube, I'll put up the flyer, but you can also see it on the Instagram for CBL. Which, speaking of CBL, great new article up right now about Nirvana, the band, the show, the hot dog.
Yeah, bro, Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, the hot dog. That's exactly it.
Yeah, absolutely. Go read that right now. After you're done listening to me ramble and end this episode, please go read that. Go read them. Read all the articles. Honestly, go check out CBL. Yeah, like I said, we'll have the flyer for this definitely real, not made up, totally real festival.
Daft
Up
Punk
on the
is
CBL.
coming back and is playing with Motion City soundtrack and Jane Remover.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what's happening. You guys got to go. But the flyer for that's going to be on the Instagram for CBL, which will, if you're watching this on YouTube, will be in the description. We're going to start adding that to the descriptions. Yeah, go check that out. CBL on Instagram. And yeah, just subscribe to the podcast on YouTube at Shockingly Ninja Like. You'll get all the episodes on there, as well as CBL Magazine. Go check out the episodes on CBL Magazine, updated like the same day they go up on YouTube, pretty much to the minute. So if you find it on YouTube, you can also find it on CBL. Yeah, honestly, that's about it. I thought this was a really fun idea, and I'm glad that Landon brought this one to the podcast. It was super fun picking these artists and just like trying to figure out how they would work, especially because we aren't finding out what artists we picked until we recorded this. Like, I had no clue what Landon's list was going to look like.
Yeah, we kept them hidden on purpose. I wanted it to kind of be a slow reveal.
Yeah, no, I think it worked. I think this is a very, very interesting episode. And yeah,
I think also, like, if it comes down to it, if anyone has any suggestions, we would be down to make another Pillow Fest for maybe different genres. We can make it a little more thematic, or we can just go and have an episode where we purposely make the most random Pillow Fest lineup that we could possibly think of, and we'll try to if anyone has any suggestions for stuff that you would want to see on Pillowcast, just you could either send a submission or drop a comment on the YouTube page, or you could send a submission through the CBL Magazine website. So
yeah, absolutely. I think the random artist one would be super fun. Like there's a lot of shit we could pull for that one. That could be hilarious, honestly.
yeah.
So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. Again, I've kind of already wrapped it up. Yeah, that's gonna be it. Tickets for the festival are like $500 a piece, and whatever organ you feel most comfortable donating.
It's not by choice that you have to donate an organ. It's $500, and you have to donate an organ. Not donate.
Yeah,
we're gonna sell
it can't be like a skimpy organ either, like a pancreas or a kidney. Like it's either your liver or you're not going.
Yeah, it's not like to make up the cost. No, it's $500 plus a vital organ.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. See you guys. Make sure to subscribe and or listen on CBL. That's it, everybody. Peace out. Stay fluffy.
And don't forget, safe sex is great sex. Better wear
latex.
Because you don't want that latex. That I think I'm latex.
Latex. Ooh, sit down. That's a bar.